So, hi, Pat.
Hi.
So, everyone, this is Pat Pauly, and I'm just really thrilled to be talking to her. I feel so lucky to have developed a friendship with this fabulously talented woman, and so I wanted to share her and her talent and everything with all of you. So, Pat, launch in. I mean, I can. I've got millions of questions, but we can start with how you and I met.
Yeah, sure. I got an email from someone who said, I can't tell. I was going to fly, but I have to take the train because I hurt my elbow. And what do I really essentially need to bring to this on-site class? And I thought, oh, great, some lady who can't move around the class. And now you're sitting. I just was. And then I met you, and I went like, that's the little old lady. No, you were so capable, and it was just a riot. I just remember you couldn't move your arm past here. I just was so impressed. Anyway, we got you moving the whole class, and by the time you were out of that class, we were going through yards and yards of printing fabric. So
It's true.
anyway,
And so one of the things, so of course, Pat is known for her amazingly beautiful abstract quilts, which she wins tons of awards and
well, not tons, but yeah,
well,
we'll pretend. We'll
yeah,
pretend I
and
do.
lots have been in tons of exhibitions and different places, and has been a judge on many of the juried as well, right? I mean,
Yeah, I've curated and judged a few, not huge. So
okay.
yeah,
So
but
this is also part of the resume.
don't make me
And
more than I am.
but well, I don't have to pad anything.
Yeah,
It's enough.
right.
And so Pat also teaches all over and is teaching in Tahoe, I think, coming up, and she's
Yeah,
going to Hudson River Valley, and she's doing Madeline Island in Santa Fe in the spring,
right.
and
Next
just sort of
year. Yeah,
all over the place. And
right.
you can
Yeah,
take her classes, which I've
right.
taken a number of, and they're amazing. But I
Right.
want to start, and we'll talk more about that. But I
Yeah.
wanted to start with the beginning because you actually, it's not like you just sort of came upon or you were a quilter or any of this stuff. It actually started with art,
Right.
and
Right.
it continues. And you can see
Right.
the art, it is really the huge element that continues to run through all the work. So, can you
Well,
talk a little
yeah,
bit?
my background is in art and design. So my degree is in art education, which means I had to learn, well, I wanted to take just about every course I could take. And so I did and continued on learning, between photography and ceramics and painting and oh my gosh, wood design. I took a lot of wood design. So construction, I was into constructing things and building things. And I really thought I was going to be a furniture designer. I wanted to build things. And my professors thought I was going to be a painter. Anyway, I graduated. I taught for a number of years, and I fell into printing on fabric. It's sort of a long story, but I had done that. And then I thought, well, it was a printmaking class, and I love printmaking. This is 80, oh God, 80, 79, 80. And I thought, well, who wants to print, 50 prints of the same piece of paper? I thought, well, if I print on fabric, I'll do something with it. So I had seen, this is Minneapolis, and I'd seen Jan Myers Newberry, Jan Myers, I think at the time, and she had made a quilt, and I sort of looked at it and figured it out. And so I took this fabric I built, and I made this quilt. And then because I'm an art, I know about this stuff. I photographed it and submitted it. So I sent this quilt in, and it got accepted into Quilt National '83, my very first quilt, and I continued to make them. It wasn't a big deal to me then because social media wasn't around to tell everybody, and you couldn't Facebook, hey, I got in. Anyway, so I continued to make quilts and continued to send them across the country, and they traveled all over, and I stayed home. Um, and eventually I took a class in 1986, I think, was my first class, which
On
actually didn't
what
teach
was the
me
class?
anything. It was,
What was
well, there was this retreat called Quilting by the Lake. And I looked at all the names of the teachers meant nothing to me. And there was this one that said art quilts. And I thought, oh, I make art quilts. I should take that one. So I took that one. And it was Nancy Crow who was kind of just formulating her her workshops, I think, at that point. And so I took it, and there was really no instruction. It was very different than what she teaches now. And so we just sort of made our quilts, and then we talked philosophy, and then we went back and made our quilts. All very funny, and had a good time. But and then it was another almost 10, more than 10, 12 years before I really took another class and got involved. More than that, actually, about 20 years. So I started quilting. I'd been quilting, so it's, I don't know, 40 years. I lose track of the time. So 81, yeah, 40 years.
Yeah.
I've been doing this. And I have taken classes as great exposure, but oddly, my stuff still looks like my stuff. So so I guess that's good. Yeah.
Okay, so just one quick question.
Yeah.
How did you know what was even the construction of a quilt? I mean,
I have no idea. I don't know. I know it sounds funny, but in this gallery, I took that Jan Myers quilt and I looked at the back of it. On the front there was no quilting stitch, but on the back there was, and I thought, well, there must be a way you put it in there, and I figured out a way to modify the flip and stitch thing. I would build the whole thing and then I would unroll it and roll it back up and stitch. I'd figured out a way to do it. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know where I didn't read books. I don't know how I figured it out. But I'd been sewing for a long time and I sort of figured things out. And the same with printmaking. I've really not taken any other printmaking class, very cursory dyeing class, I think, but never 5 days of printing. So I know it sounds funny to be self-taught, but I mean, I sort of, if you paint, you know how to mix color. If you studied painting, if you studied design, graphics. If you studied all that stuff, it's just a different medium, but it's the same work I did in art and design. And for many years, I worked. After I left teaching art, I worked as an exhibition designer, which uses every skill you could ever possibly have, and then some. And it was the most fascinating job I ever had. I worked in museums and galleries. So it was, typography and graphics and large scale and small scale and making mounts for objects and how to what's the word? Display things. It's a huge, you had to sort of know everything. 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional.
So the curator would curate the show, and then you would do all everything else that one sees when you go to a show.
Basically,
including
I'm
the little plaques that
the translator. Yes, that the labels, all that was produced. Anything that, they give you a script, and then I basically produce what it looks like, how you walk through it. It's a fascinating job. The layers of material that you see. I did interactive things. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that job. And because of that, I'm very at ease with working with museums and curators and in space. And I've curated a few shows, not recently, and not in the last maybe 5 years. But they're wonderful. I did one in Harrisburg that was where I asked 2 places for historic quilts that were 1800s, 1900s, and I paired them with 20th century contemporary quilts. And so 20 and 20, it was called Quilt 2020. And it was fabulous because I could put them side by side. I could put Terry Gerard Diamond's piece directly next to an Amish center medallion piece. It was in Paula Kavorek's work, and it was just fascinating to do. So yeah, I had a great time doing that. I haven't done it in a while.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. I love the whole idea of that. It's really, what a great idea.
Well, someone organizes the show, and sometimes it's me. But that particular show I designed and curated, which is unusual. Usually they're separate entities, and in a way it's a good thing because one stands to check the other.
Right.
If the message isn't getting across, or if the objects aren't filling up, it's I did an exhibit once on the Underground Railroad, and there are no objects in the Underground Railroad. I mean, think about it, right? So
Right.
It was conceptual. It was photographs of where they would have crossed, what they would have used. It was a fascinating show. They're very, very. We had, I think, 3 objects. One was a list of I don't know, people who it's again, everything about the Underground Railroad was not tangible.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all verbal.
That,
Yeah,
that's quite a challenge.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Incredible.
it's fun.
So what it sounds like the abstract art then which sort of as a quilt is kind of the quilt is not the focus, it's the art that is the focus. It's that the quilt became the best
Vehicle.
way for you
Right,
to show your work. Is would
right,
that be correct?
right. And I've said this before is that a quilt you can deconstruct, reconstruct, you can move it around, you can shift it. It isn't a static like a painting. It's, I've said this, it's, you can only the only thing you do with a painting, it's set in size. The only thing you do is turn it 90 degrees or 180 degrees. I mean, there isn't anything you can do once you've captured that surface, which is fine if that's how you like to work. I was always looking at how can I change this before I commit for real. So I wanted to I wanted to be able to build things. So that's what I do.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
the interest in the furniture, all it's so
Right. It's
interesting how
formed.
these early interests
Right.
bleed, then find their way, despite
Right.
us,
Right.
their way into the work.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I have a heart for architecture and spatial things. Gardens are hard because there's no boundaries, but interior is easy. So, yeah, I'm always looking for, yeah, and I'm always surprised at how people live because I think, like, don't you live like me with art all around you, and you'll visit someone and you think, like, oh, there's a blank wall. Let's let's hang, it's
I
all.
could fill that wall.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like where's their interest? I find musicians are an interesting bunch. Not that I'm dissing them, but what they're looking for are sounds, and so you'll see instruments everywhere and sound systems and so forth. But if you're a visual artist, I really want to surround myself with. Well, here's my buddy. Here it is. I just bought this from a
Oh,
friend.
wow.
Isn't it beautiful? So
Yes.
this for me is great inspiration. Anyway, it's that kind of thing. Like,
So the abstract, all right, you have this background, you have these early interests, you find this kind of this way of working that seems to work for you. And at
right.
what point, or was it simultaneously, were you now printing your own fabric?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, it's funny because I was building a piece that was a huge leaf, and I didn't have the fabric I wanted. And I hadn't been dyeing fabric. So I think I took some fabric and I put acrylic paint over it. I knew the colors I wanted, and I started to paint fabric just with acrylic fabric. I used to sit across every now and then. I'd take a little workshop, and I'd sit across from my dyer, and I go, "Oh, that's beautiful." She goes, "Yeah, you can buy it from me." She wouldn't give it to me. So I would every now I was then becoming more interested in basically fabric that had surface design on it, and I started to dye, and I could do shibori, and I understood patterning and stuff. And then I don't know how I fell into it, but I realized that there was this thick and dye stuff, and you could print with it. And printing, as soon as I could print, is like, oh, this is it. So I find the whole process, the difference between designing on the design wall, making a piece itself, is very different than printing. Printing for me is the zone. You know how runners say they're in the zone? That's kind of how I feel. I really am a different. I'm much calmer. It sort of just happens on the table. I don't think about it. It just kind of naturally occurs. It's wonderful. And so I make all this fabric, and then afterwards I'll take a handful of them, six, seven, eight, 10, and then I'll decide what to do with them. I don't really make them specifically for a project.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So so then it's the fabric is sometimes leading you, as opposed to how you began with the printing process, which is I don't have this, I need this one thing,
Right,
and so
exactly.
I'm going to create it.
Right. So now I basically make these palettes of things, and I'm yeah, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I mean,
Yeah.
I no longer make fabric specifically for that piece. I make the piece off the fabric I build.
Right.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe they don't. Maybe they start with an idea or a pattern or a photograph. I sort of start the other way around. Like how does this fabric uh, work together, and does it talk to each other, and what can I do with it? So like the stuff behind me,
Right.
that was a whole set
I
of
love that piece behind you, by
yeah.
the way.
That just got juried into quilts equals art equals quilts. So that's gonna get boxed up in a couple days and get ready to ship over there. So
That's
yeah.
fabulous. So, do you ever start with an a kind of idea? Do you ever say, "Yes, I want to do whatever because I'm inspired by something I've seen or whatever"?
Right. That happens. And there's one I think you have the image of it, and it's just a single huge leaf. It's about 6 feet high. And so on Facebook or Instagram, I'm often posting, here's a leaf I like. I love leaves. I've used leaves. I print leaves. I've done designs with leaves. So Joe Cunningham sent me this photo of a leaf, just a single leaf, and he goes, "Here's a leaf for you, Pat." And I'm like, "Okay." So I think I printed it out and I stuck it on my design wall, and it sat there for wow, a couple of years, I think. And I found that, oh well, I might as well just make this. And so in that instance, I pretty much copied its form pretty exactly, but changed out used my own color and my own fabrics and changed the whole tone of it, and of course made it huge. So there's sometimes I will use a pre-made design or pre-made image, either a photograph or a sketch or something like that, or drawing. And I teach this in a class called A Dozen Ways, designed for art quilters, where you come up with various ways to start. But anyway, so yes, I do sometimes use that as the starter, but not often. Usually I will, what I'd love to do is do it improvisationally and to start off with a set of fabrics, maybe 6 or 8 fabrics here, and combine them, recombine them, see what happens on that design wall. And all of a sudden it'll say, oh, that's what's going on. And then I just refine it and make it have that statement. I think that's fair enough. So, yeah, that's
So
how that works.
do you find, having worked in all these different ways, do you find that way is your favorite?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
I know.
easiest for you.
I keep saying when I'm old and gray, I'm going to take up painting, but I'm already old and gray, and
And
I
you're
haven't
already
done that.
painting, by
Yeah,
the
and
way.
I've already painted, and I keep thinking, well, I'll go back to something simpler like painting. But that hasn't happened yet. I find there's something about textile arts, and I do love a challenge, and I think working with fabric is not as instant, it's not as fast. Easily, it would be way easier to just paint. It would be easier to fuse. I pretty much piece things. I've made things with raw applique, but
Pat, so talk to me about how the pandemic has changed things for you because you were teaching all over the world, not just the country.
right. So I've got invited to teach in Australia, which was quite a hoot. I mean, it was fun. So I'd been all through Canada, east, west, north. I taught all over, and I got back at the end of 2019, and months later, everything was shut down. I realized I was a gig worker. I didn't realize gig is someone who has an audience, who needs an audience to perform. Somebody who was designing books said, "Yeah, I'm a gig." I didn't. No, you're not. No, you're not. A gig means you're a musician. You're somebody who you can't do your work without. So anyway, after moping around for a couple of months, I was convinced by my techie daughter that I needed to work to earn a living. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. And so I transitioned to live workshops. And I knew that other people were doing videos where you could watch them and stop them and look at them and so forth. But I really wanted it to feel exactly like a retreat. I wanted to be in the same room. I wanted people to hear me if I said to somebody, oh, use that color there or try printing that way, that they would hear that as well. And so nobody was really working in a vacuum. And I just thought that was really important so that so that it felt like a class. So I've been teaching 5-day classes in printmaking, which is a hoot because they set up a sort of either they've already got a studio or they set up a studio. And I've seen these incredible transformations for workspaces. It's just a riot. And I also teach 2 or 3 day design workshops. So we, build things on the design wall and do things that are sewing based that aren't printmaking. So it's anyway. So that has definitely kept me going, and I think it's of great value. People have asked me now that I'm scheduled to leave in a week to go to Sisters, Oregon for a week to teach live. And so the people who come to my classes on through Zoom have said, please continue to do virtual workshops. And I thought, well, okay, I'm okay with that because I think for them, first of all, it's very easy for me. It's a lot. Travel is a huge time suck for which I really can do nothing else. I'm not writing a book in the airport, believe me. And it takes a huge amount to pack it up and move and do. And the other thing is for them, they don't have to pay transportation, lodging, or meals or invest a lot more than just the class. So I think it's a great way for them to learn about a technique or a process without a huge investment of money. The time is still there, but the time is shortened because, again, they're not in a hotel room at night. So anyway, it's a very different thing. And in the class, there are people from, I don't know, Germany, France, Calgary, Montreal, Texas. It was this great amalgam, I guess is the word, of people. And it was just tons of fun. And I said to someone, I had a class where there was someone in Texas, and just as this uh, law went into effect that is so controversial, there was someone from Texas you could talk to, and then there was someone who was in, I think, Iowa. And I said, well, how's that pandemic bed shortage going? So it's absolutely timely. And I don't even have to read the newspaper. I just need the headlines. And then I talk to the people who are in the class. It's just, I just feel connected. It's really wonderful. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, having taken 2 of your
Oh,
virtual workshops,
yeah,
I can tell everyone that they are just fantastic. And I
yeah.
want to say that, the other thing about the virtual workshops that I think, I don't know if it did it catch you by surprise how popular
It's
they would be?
mine are, and I don't even advertise. It's bizarre. Someone wrote me a letter, a complaint. Hey, how do I find out every time I go, they're all full? And I thought, well, sorry, I can only do so many classes, and it was pretty funny. So I told her I put her on a mailing list, but I don't, I, it's just me over here. I don't
Yeah.
have an agent.
You don't
I
have a
don't have,
staff.
I'm not married. I don't have staff. I'm not married to anyone who's saying, oh, I'll do that for you, deep voice.
Right. Right.
So,
Or kids that are
no,
gonna, yeah.
my kids are, yeah, they're professionals doing other big deal jobs.
Yeah, my
So,
kids are useless when it comes to this as well. I'm always hoping,
yeah, well,
I'll go to my
they're,
son, Nick, do you think you'll be able to teach me Photoshop? Yeah, Mom, there are a lot of YouTube videos.
well,
Thanks.
that
Thanks. I
I
did
know.
know that. Having my own YouTube channel. Thank you.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's information for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
pretty funny.
the other thing about the virtual is that there are some people who, for health reasons, really can't move around.
Well,
Or
yeah,
And so the audience is much so, in addition to capturing now a whole world, as long as they speak English. I mean,
right,
unfortunately, we don't have translate on Zoom like you do on YouTube, where you can
right,
literally translate to any language. I keep
right.
hoping Zoom's going to do that because that
Yeah.
would really be amazing. Um,
Okay.
you open up to a whole group of people that you would never otherwise be able to reach.
Yeah. For someone to come in, well, from England, I've had England
Yep.
and France and Germany, for them to come over and basically chance it. If they'd already known me in some ways, fine. They know what they're getting. They know they're going to get rest. They know they're going to they're gonna, we're gonna make jokes, and I'm gonna say things like "stop," and they're gonna keep going, which is always very funny. um, but if you just take, if you fly cross continent, and you show up at a Quilt Surface Design Symposium and you've never had that teacher before, that's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And but you're right. Those people well, there was one woman who literally she was having food delivered to her door. The doorbell kept ringing. We kept saying, Agatha, aren't you going to answer the door? And she'd say, "Oh, it's just my food." We didn't realize she was not going. She was in lockdown. She was not going out of her apartment, but she was printing like a songbird. She was having a swell time, really going at it. So it was kind of funny.
That's so great. I love that. Yeah. Okay, now I need to talk, Pat, about your printing on linen.
I know.
We have to talk about this.
You know what I found?
Anyone who's followed me knows how much I love your linen. Let me just tell this story. So I get the mail and I get a little package and it's from Pat. Now, if I get a package from Pat, I mean, this is better than Christmas, I tell you, right. Because it's like and she sent me little pieces of things that she had printed on linen. And right. I was just ecstatic. And so I started playing with them.
Right.
And then I kept getting people saying, well, how can I get some of Pat's linen? Because I kept going. And this is my friend Pat, and she's so talented. And this is linen. Well, she doesn't have any. She just sent it to me. That wasn't gonna work. So I kept saying,
Pat, to see what you were doing. Oh my God. You were driving me nuts.
You got to start printing on linen. So Pat printed out, let me finish. So Pat printed out 20, was it 20? 20 the first run.
Right. 20 little pieces. Well, yeah, 40 yards. Yeah.
And I posted it to my patrons and it sold out in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to post to my patrons. I'm going to give them 48 hours. Then I'm posting to fit my Facebook group. And then I'm going to do a YouTube channel video. Why none of that happened?
Don't need to. I know.
20 pieces gone in 24. So then your last run was 40.
Right.
You're almost sold out, not quite.
Yep.
So if you don't know and you want some of Pat's linen, you better hurry over there because she only has a few pieces left. And what do you have in your hand?
So I was downstairs moving things around as one does in the studio, and this was what I sent you originally. These are little cutoffs of that first batch of stuff. You had ice dyed this horrendous, and I was like, no. We need better. So I think, and this must have been, and I must have cut these off as in, well, which ones do you want me to make you? And I think you kept the whole. It's something. Anyway, this is the first batch.
I said everything. Right? I did. I said.
I'll show you what I have left. The scarves.
Okay, I'm wearing one of the scarves. Wait, I have to do a better. Okay.
Yeah.
This is one of Pat's scarves.
That one I love.
Okay, if you watched any of my videos of my trip to Africa, you will see that every single day I am wearing one of her scarves. Oh, look at this one. Is that a new one?
No, these are up on the website.
That's not on the website.
Yeah, it is.
What is it called?
I don't know. It's number. I don't know what it's called. I didn't look. Oh.
You see, this is what she does to me. She shows stuff, and then I'm like, well, where is it? And then she says, I don't know. It's on the.
I know. These are all
on the website.
It is, isn't it? It must be.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Because anyway, I bought. She cut me off. I bought 7 scarves. She said, "That's it."
Yeah, you're done. You're done. You own the store.
And it's like, so now I have to make an alias to buy stuff.
I know you do. Yeah, get your friend to buy it. So, so this is what's left, and
linen.
So they are this big. They're this. I don't know, whatever, 29 inches, 30 inches, and they look like
it's bigger than a fat quarter. It's a.
Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever. It's not half a yard, but it's.
So that's it. So I'll just go.
I want that one.
I know, and they're left for you. Aren't they nice? See, yeah. So that. I thought. Which is true. And these, I love this.
Just tossing them. Do you see how? Oh my gosh. Africa. Yeah.
I know. Okay. That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, and this one, which is chartreuse.
That's chartreuse? That looks yellow.
Well, okay, yellow.
Okay. Ooh, yeah, love
I
that.
know.
Love
Cool.
that.
So these guys, and but the rest. So I don't know, eight, six. I don't have too many left. And
Yeah.
there's one on the floor, which I'm not going to get.
No, come on. I want to see it. See, this is what happens. We do Zoom calls, but where I just make her show me stuff, and then I'm
Huh?
like, I want
There you
that
go.
one, I want that one.
It's
Ooh,
subtle.
that's pretty.
Yeah.
I love that.
So for
Oh,
somebody who
violet.
wants, yeah. And of course, you can use parts of it. I
Yeah.
don't know what they're going to do with it.
Well, I'm going to show photographs of what I'm doing with Pat's things,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then people can decide what they're going to do. You
Yeah.
can also see just over Pat's shoulder
Oh,
that
yeah.
there's, well, her quilt, but also her pillows, which
Oh,
she also sells on her
I
website.
do. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
aren't they fabulous?
I'm going to stand against that thing so you can see how
Okay.
large it is.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Isn't it fabulous?
Big. Yeah.
Okay, so if someone bought that piece, they don't get Pat too. You just get the piece.
You get the piece. Yeah. Yeah. It's that piece, it sort of came about. I had designed something on the wall, and all of a sudden I looked at it and it just looked like water. And then I realized I had just returned from Australia, and it ended up really being a beach. There's a very iconic beach there in Sydney called Bondi Beach. It's like the perfect beach. It's this weird cove in the rocks. It's absolutely brilliant, and that's kind of what it looked like. So.
Love
It's
that.
Bondi Beach. It's I love it, and I've been looking at it all summer, and now I'm gonna ship it away. And this is a wall where I change things out all the time.
Yeah,
You
don't
have
forget,
to
it's always different.
live with your art. You just have to. So I've always got one there and one in the living room, large, and in other spots.
You prefer working large or no? It's
I
really
do. I really think size matters. I know the work you do is small and it has to have that focus. I mean I guess it could go 8 feet. I mean, think of the Bayeux Tapestry. I mean, but I do think that there is strength in having things really large and graphic. And I know if this was put into a gallery space or any kind of commercial space, it would really look small. So I have started to build things that would fill the space between the couch and the ceiling. So 4 or 5 feet tall as opposed to 8 feet tall, but equally 8, 9 feet wide. And they're fantastic. They're just fantastic. So
of course you
yeah,
have to have a design wall that's that big
you
to
can.
use.
I tell everyone you can only design as big as your design wall, and you can only cut as big as your cutting table.
Yeah.
And people look at me like, you know, Velda Newman, I think her design wall was 11 feet and she added it onto her house and it became 15 feet. And all of a sudden, guess what she made? 15 feet wide. I mean, that's kind of how it works.
So I'm going to have to move out of New York City, obviously, if I'm going to get any bigger. That's my problem. So do you think about, I mean, I don't know. Does anyone think about how is my work evolving? I mean, I don't. I just sort of keep going,
Yeah,
evolve.
I
What
I
about you?
don't. It's funny. People seem to recognize my work before I did, and they would say, "Oh, I saw your piece in I don't know Iowa or something," and I'm like, "Really? How'd you know it was mine?" "Oh, you have a very distinct style," and I thought, "Oh, I better study up on that." I guess there is a distinct style. There are
Definitely.
people, yeah, who sort of look like me, and I think it's only because I've become more well known. Um, but a friend said once, she said, don't worry about people copying your work because by the time they figure out what you're doing now, you'll be on to the next three steps. And I think I have done that. So I think I continue to evolve enough for me. And I don't think anybody can catch me just yet. And if they do, fine, have fun, that's okay. Just don't steal my images and put it in a book.
Yeah. Has
Yeah.
anyone done that?
I've had a bit of, yeah, I've had that in the past. It's not fun. It's not a nice thing to have happen. And I've certainly done work for which has not been credited. Um, but it doesn't happen often. And again, I won't worry about it until I post a class and it never fills. So right now, everything's fine. Um, and I'm not the only one out there working, as you know. And there's some really, really knockout uh, contemporary artists out there. So it's wonderful to be in that company. I have to say, when I get into an exhibition, this is just lying on my counter. When I get into an exhibition that's not specifically contemporary quilts, I'm pretty happy. So this happens. This is a biennial show, and these pieces, even though I just cracked open one that's another quilt, these pieces are glass, paper, tapestry, and Clark. Sculpture, wood, metal, glass, wild, wild stuff. So if I can get an exhibition and be seen with other contemporary artists, that satisfies me. It's a beautiful way to become exposed to a greater world. I call this high craft. Art and craft media has been going on for a long time.
So what piece do you have in there?
It's called Duck's Breath. And it is also the most beautiful catalog ever. Mm-hmm. So that's me. Nice, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Duck's Breath.
So, Pat, this has just been so fabulous talking to you. I can't even tell you. You're just...
It's so much fun. It's wonderful. I have to thank you for finding me to begin with, and then for nurturing me. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, like it should be the other way around or something, but I think what you're doing is wonderful. I think the style of what you're doing in teaching is wonderful. Not just what you make, but how you are with other people. I just think it's wonderful. And you've just given such a gift to let us all tour with you, both in walking around New York City and Africa and in needlework. I just love it. So it's a real honor to be part of this and to have you get in touch with me. Really, I'm honored.
Oh, so Pat, that's how I feel.
It's not because you wear all my scarves. It's just because.
Right. She's just,
It's just because.
Yeah, I know. Can you angle the camera down a little though? So that scarf, Pat Pauly's scarf, everyone. Here we go. I feel like Vanna White,
Yeah, I would have one, but it's like the humidity is like 150 over here. It's really striking. So there, how's that?
There you go. So, the thing is about these scarves is that in Africa, where it was quite cold in the morning, I would do 3 around.
Yeah, that's what I did.
A turtleneck. And then I would slowly unwind.
Yeah.
And then at the last point, when it was just so hot, I would just have it sort of draping around.
Yeah, right.
Just to add a little color.
I know. I'm looking forward to winter when I can do this again. Yeah.
But these scarves are silk. They're 100% silk. So they actually are really quite lovely in all
they weigh
unless it's 100 degrees, they travel beautifully. I literally packed, I think 5 or 6 of them.
Did you really? That is hysterical. I think I saw them in the videos. I was like, there she goes again.
Yeah. So there's another one. Yeah.
It was wonderful.
And I kept, changing them out, making sure I wasn't wearing the same one. I will be doing the same when we go to Egypt, which is
end of
October.
Well, take us with you. Anyway, it was lovely to be here.
Thank you so much, Pat.
You're very welcome. Really.